Welcome. Let's start by rubbing our hands together today. Getting some good heat. And then placing the hands over the face. And then rubbing the hands together again. Getting some heat. And placing one hand on the front of the head, one hand on the back of the head. And just gently pressing inwards. And rubbing the hands together. And then crossing the arms and grabbing hold of the collarbones. And then we're just going to gently slide the hands down and tap one side at a time. So this is just a way to calm the parasympathetic nervous system, a little self-regulating exercise. I want you to focus on your breath while you do this. And then shake the arms out. Bringing your hands down onto your knees. And again, alternate tapping. And just working through the breath. Keeping that going for a couple more breaths. And then turning your palms up, resting them on your legs so that the elbows drop down and letting the arms be really heavy. I'm all froggy all of a sudden, but it occurs to me that I actually haven't spoken today until now at 9 o'clock at night. The joys of living alone and working from home and editing yoga videos all day. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of core work, chest opening, back strengthening to start. So we're going to be lying on our belly, and you want to have some padding in under your forearms. So if you have tender elbows, you want to grab a blanket or just roll up your yoga mat if you'd like. And having a little extra padding, and you're also going to want your block for this. And we'll come down onto the belly. Into Sphinx pose. So elbows under the shoulders. I want you to turn your palms up. Bring the pinky finger side of the hand into the block so that you've got the same distance between the inner hand and the inner elbows. And that distance should be about block width, which is most likely somewhere near shoulder width. And just wiggle your hips out side to side And gently lift one hip and then internally rotate the leg, and lift the other hip, internally rotate. So we're really kind of encouraging that internal rotation. And right away, you should feel some release in the low back. Whenever we invite internal rotation into the upper thigh bones, we invite the low back to release. So that should already feel so much better. I know it does in my body. So let's just take a couple breaths here. Let the belly soften. Feel all your internal organs relaxing, softening. As we move through life with anxiety and just shallow breathing, our intestines and all of the other internal organs tend to kind of get lifted up. That apana energy, that upward moving energy, comes into our internal organs as well. And they get tense and they get tight and they get pulled up. So we're just taking a few rounds of breath here, inviting all of those internal organs to soften. Oh. Feeling the stomach dropping down. On the right hand side, your liver, gallbladder more towards the center line. On the left hand side, we got the pancreas and spleen, the kidneys in the back softening. Down into the intestines, uterus and bladder. And then from this place, we're going to do a couple different variations. This is always going to be our resting place, coming back into this Sphinx position, this very yin aspect. But we're going to punctuate this yin aspect with some yang. So I want you to think about drawing your belly into your low back. And you're going to come out of the back bend slightly here because we're going to be drawing the whole front belly into the back body. So as I tuck my tail and actually lengthen my tailbone, I'm trying to pull all of the tissue of my belly up off the mat and back into the body, all the way up to my pubic bone, so that even some of the weight starts to come out of the pubic bone. And as you do this, you'll feel the legs begin to engage. And we've got them in that nice internal rotation. So we're trying to train all the musculature into that internal rotation. The glutes are going to engage, the low back will engage. And I just want you to notice what's going on in your chest. So widening the collarbones, noticing if you're kind of rounding in the upper chest. I want you to keep the chest open and think of this movement really as happening between kind of the bottom of your rib cage and the top of the pubic bone. That's where all of this action is happening. And then soften. Relax everything. You can wiggle the hips a little bit. Now we're going to move this with the breath. So we'll inhale into a nice big belly, low back, rib cage, expanding as much as you can all the way around. And as you exhale, you're going to tuck the tail, pull everything back into the spine and back body. Keep the chest open. And as you inhale, you'll release, expand everything. And then exhale, contracting everything, but keeping the chest really open. Inhale and expand. Exhale, contract. Inhale and expand. Exhale and contract. Do a couple more rounds at your own breath pace. So this is a really good exercise for the days just prior to your menstrual cycle, when you're kind of getting in the PMS state and everything's starting to get a little bit achy and heavy feeling. This is a really good exercise to tonify the uterus and get it ready to release. And it can actually really significantly help with cramps. Take another round, and then you'll soften back into Sphinx. Feel the shoulders relax. Chances are they're feeling a little tender because we do use a pressing down through the forearms as we contract there. So the shoulders will get a little bit tired. So we're going to come back to this Sphinx position. You can set that block forward for a moment. Take one hand on top of the other, elbows out to the side. And we're going to do a similar thing here with the belly, but it's going to be very, very micro movement. So you'll have your forehead down on your hands, and I'm just going to turn my head so that you'll still be able to hear me. And you're going to draw your belly up and away from the floor. Now, this might not really feel like it lifts up off the floor, but the intention is that you're drawing the belly up and getting all of the tissue of your belly up off the floor. Just imagining that that's happening and what muscles you would need to engage in order to do that. And then once you've pulled it all up, you're going to hold it there and continue to breathe using your belly and your low back and your whole rib cage. It's just going to be slightly more contracted because you're really engaging all of those muscles. And again, you'll feel the legs are turned on. The upper back is even going to be turned on because this is really a full body exercise, trying to peel this belly up off the ground. And then release. Really let the hips fall heavy into the mat. And again, you're going to draw the belly up and away from the floor, lifting as much of the belly off the mat or towards being up off the mat as possible. And hold there. Continue to breathe while engaged. And try to relax the muscles of your face. I find my forehead really likes to try and help here. And then release. Couple really big breaths into your belly and low back. One more time. We're going to draw the belly up and away from the floor, trying to pull everything between the rib cage and the pubic bone up off the mat. And then keep breathing in that position. And then soften everything down. Couple big breaths into your belly and low back. And then come back into Sphinx, palms turned up, grab that block, bring it between the hands. We're going to re-engage that Sphinx position. So drawing the belly up into the low back again. Should feel a little bit more easy now that we've just done that floor work that was really, really subtle. Which is great because we're going to make this pose harder now by pulling the elbows back and almost as if you're trying to drag your chest through your arms. So you're trying to drag the hips forward. Belly is pulling up. So we did all that up movement because oftentimes when we engage the abdominals in this way, we push out with the belly and we want to resist pushing out. We want to pull in and pull forward. You're going to feel this in your legs. You're going to feel this obviously in your core. You're going to feel this in your shoulders and your arms. You want to keep pressing your chest forward though. And then release, soften everything back into Sphinx. Oh. Give the hips a little wiggle. And then again, you're going to engage, draw everything up and away from the floor. And then pull the elbows back, trying to drag the hips forward and open your collarbones wide. Triceps should turn on. And release. Soften everything. We're going to do this one more time in a moment, but a couple deep breaths into your ribcage, belly, and low back. Draw everything up and in, last round. Pull it all back. Get nice and strong, contracted through the waist. And then press into the elbows and start to drag the heart and the hips forward. release. Whew. Couple more deep breaths here. Taking the elbows out, resting the chest down, the forehead down. Moving yourself back onto all fours. Stack the hips on top of the knees, and then walk the hands forward, dropping the chest down. Turn the thumbs up towards the sky, make fists with the thumbs up, and then relax the thumbs. And then turn the palms up towards the sky, the thumbs outwards. And then let yourself come all the way back into child's pose. Rolling up. We're going to come on up to standing with a strap. If you've got a super long strap, you can double it up. We're going to be working with that core work that we just did, just by keeping the core engaged. So a lot of times when we do shoulder openers, we end up really sticking the butt back and the rib cage forward in order to make room for our shoulders. So we want to resist that and really engage the hips forward and the front ribs down. So my low back is long, my hip points in the front and pubic bone are lifting up, and my rib cage is cinching down towards my belly button. Okay. I'm going to grab the strap nice and wide, and we're going to take it up and then back and down. So as you do this, again, we want to make sure that we don't come here to do this as we go forwards and backwards, backwards and forwards. We want to keep everything engaged so our core and our legs stay strong and working through this whole thing. Up and back, back and forward. Okay. So as you're doing this, just notice how the ribs want to come forward. Keep them down. And if it feels super easy, then shorten up the space between the hands on the strap. The other thing to pay attention to, if you have a mirror in your vicinity, do this in front of the mirror, both sideways and looking at yourself forwards, because you might notice that you kind of like squiggle a shoulder to go up and around, and then you know, okay, well, I need to open up my width a little bit more here and really slow down right through there so I can start to get into that muscle. And then when you notice that little like wiggle happen, you can stop and do the eraser, just like we do with the therapy balls, where you just do this little micro movement to start breaking up that adhesion that's causing you to do like a little wiggle jive thing. And you can notice the same thing on the side. Okay, at this point, my ribs really want to pop forward. So how can I just pause here for a second and work that area, work my strength at the same time, and work opening up the shoulders. So just breathing more awareness into your body and your movement here. Okay, keep going. I'm just going to lift this camera up a little bit so that you'll be able to see the next part better. So my head's not cut off. Teaching online in small spaces. So next time you come upwards, you're going to pause. Okay. And you're going to take the right hand and turn your thumb down so we get a strong internal rotation and pull the arm down. Now, what's happening with this top arm is that it's going back. Okay. So I'm pulling it backwards by bringing this other hand down. We want to, again, keep the core really strong so we don't end up here. Okay. We want to keep this in the shoulder, rib cage, side body. And you're just holding here. It's a static stretch with a core engagement. And then notice if your shoulders are elevated at all, try to pull the shoulders down the back a bit more. And then where are you not breathing into? What feels really tight and difficult to breathe into? Focus your breath into that space. And then come back center. And we're going to turn the left thumb down, drop that arm back. And again, we're now pulling the right arm backwards overhead. And we're watching for the ribs popping forward, keeping the tail under, low back long. Hip points, pubic bone pull up, ribs drop down. If those shoulders are elevated, pull them down. And then notice where you're having difficulty breathing into. Send the breath there. And how is this side different from the other? And come back up. Just let that strap down for a second. Release the arms, take a couple big shoulder rolls up and back. And then just do the right shoulder as big as you can make that. And just move around however your body feels like it needs to be moved to stretch through these shoulders. Take a little forward fold here. Help continue to release that low back. And then take the heels out a little bit. So again, we encourage that internal rotation to help open up the back a bit more. Head completely releases, shoulders release. If you need to bring the floor up to you using a block, go ahead and do that. You want to be in a place where you feel very supported and that you're not gripping anywhere in your body. Bend your knees and ragdoll your way up. Then you are going to take the strap and we're going to do that same exercise again. So bringing the arms up overhead, right thumb is going to turn down. I'm going to pull that arm down. Left arm goes up and back. Pull those bottom ribs in, tuck the tail under. Breathe, drop your shoulders. And then bring the arm back up. Left arm internally rotates and drops down. Right arm goes back. Relax the shoulders, drop the ribs. Breathe deep. Come on up. Release that down. Set the strap off to the side. Couple big shoulder rolls. A little bit of spine movement, however feels good in your body. And then ragdoll yourself back down into that internally rotated forward fold. Giving yourself support anywhere you need to, so that you feel like you can completely surrender into this forward fold. You're gonna bend the knees, come on back down onto your mat. Grab the block. And we're gonna place it on its medium side behind us. And then bring the shoulder blades right down onto it. So we're completely supported on the shoulder blades. Arms are going to come out, coming into supported fish. So head will drop back. If that feels like too much on the head, grab a blanket or a pillow and put it under your head. Palms are turned up, legs go long down the mat. And focus on breathing right across the breast line. Opening that up as much as you can on the inhale. And if you get widened through that area as much as you can, everything through the upper belly is going to continue to stretch and soften. So the exhale becomes this act of surrender. Everything falls a little bit deeper. The elbows get heavier. The belly gets heavier, the hips get heavier, the legs get heavier. letting everything soften. Bending the knees, feet to the floor. Tuck your chin. Bring your elbows alongside of you. Bring the hands into the low back. And then walk those elbows in and walk yourself up. You want to get your therapy balls. And if there was a particular place during that shoulder exercise that you really felt like, ooh, that's a spot that feels intense, we're just going to take a second and put the balls in that place. I'm sure we all have one somewhere in our shoulders that we can find. So you're just going to place the balls in that area and rest back. Either hands behind the head and elbows out or in cactus pose. And then give yourself a hug. And if it feels appropriate, you can rock side to side here for a little bit more of a massage into that area. And then we're going to come up off of those, grab the block and place it under your head. I do like to take them out of the pouch for this. Me working the occiput. I think we did this last week or maybe it was the week before as well. It's always a good one, especially if we've just done a bunch of upper body opening. We can sometimes get some really sweet adjustments. So you're going to take the balls and you're going to place them right at the base of the skull. And then place them on the block. So once you find your sweet spot, you'll kind of always end up in the sweet spot. But if you're just doing this for the first time, it might take a minute before you can get them to stay in place. And it's always a little bit different depending on how high of a block you have. So moving around until you find that sweet spot where you can completely surrender your head into the balls and into the block. And you'll know you're there when speaking becomes challenging and it feels like the whole room just slows down. I notice my breath slows down. As a teacher, when I'm sitting here trying to talk to you, it's like my brain mouth connection slows down. I tend to just want to shut up and take a nap, even though it's quite uncomfortable. But it's that uncomfortableness that is it's just a really good pressure point. Very calming for the nervous system. So just take a moment to allow your nervous system to power down for a second. Allow those big breaths to roll over the body. I do like to add a little extra opening for the low back here. So if you'd like, you can walk your feet about as wide or slightly wider than your mat. Then drop your knees together. And then you are welcome to just chillax here. If you want to go a little bit deeper and open up through the occiput a bit more, you're just going to start to gently move your head in a yes motion. And it's a pretty small movement. Maybe just a half an inch up and then back center and a half an inch down. And anywhere through there that you feel, oh, this is juicy, you can stop and hang out and breathe. And then keep moving. As a massage therapist, I always forget when I'm working on someone's neck and I grab hold of the occiput and I just hold. It's kind of something that's, I don't know, been beaten into us as therapists, that is a really good thing to do. And while I'm doing it, I always think, how does this feel good? And I don't remember it until I'm sitting here with therapy balls and under my occiput and I go, oh, right, that's what that feels like. That's heavenly. Somebody could do that for just a whole hour to me and I'd be happy. But it just feels so different from the perspective of a therapist when we are doing it to somebody. And if you are doing this yes motion and this is your jam and you want to keep going, keep going. If you want to try something a little different, you find your center point again. You might need to bring the balls back together. They might have separated slightly. And through this next one, they will separate and you'll need to keep bringing them back to the center. And you're going to do the same thing, but just no. Shake your head no. And again, we're just moving a half an inch in each direction. And this might be a little more tender. So you might be inspired to stop and breathe into places. And if you are in movement, you want to come back to a static position, just hanging out. From here, just gently pick the head up, slide the balls out and the block away. And you're going to set yourself down, lying flat for Shavasana. If you need a blanket for warmth, you can grab that. Drop the arms out, palms turned up. Take a couple deep breaths as you settle into Shavasana. And deepen your breath once again. Wiggling your fingers and your toes, hands and feet, arms and legs. Letting one knee and then the other feet to the floor. Rolling over onto your side. And then slowly up to seated. And you might be a little bit sore tomorrow from the core work in the beginning. So if you wonder why your shoulders are a little tender, that's why. Taking some deep breaths here. And bring your hands down at your heart center. Thanking yourself for taking this time for your body today. Feeling that gratitude flood into every cell of your body. Thank you for being here with me. Namaste.